All right. I think I will get started. We have a lot to go through and a lot of great people on the call. So I will just get us started here. So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our Parents and Supporters Ask Me Anything webinar. I just want to note, so please submit any questions that you have with the Q&A button on the bottom of your screen. You can ask any questions throughout the webinar. Questions will be answered via typed responses. As many as possible we will answer. And hopefully at the end, we will do a live Q&A. So we will be answering more of your questions with our lovely people on the call today. And again, if you have any questions afterwards, you can always email enginfo@uwaterloo.ca with any additional questions after the webinar, and we would be more than happy to help you out or point you in the right direction of who to contact. First, I just want to give our territorial acknowledgements. So the University of Waterloo acknowledges that much of our work takes place on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. Our main campus is situated on the Haldimand Tract, which is the land granted to the Six Nations that includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. And our active work towards reconciliation takes place across our campuses through research, learning, teaching, and community building, and is centralized within our Office of Indigenous Relations. So before I pass it off here, just a couple reminders and housekeeping things here. We do have closed captioning available for you if that would help you out tonight. Just look down to that live transcript button there and you can click that on. Again, please submit any questions to that Q&A during the presentation. And again, our questions will be answered, either typed answer throughout them or we'll answer them on the live Q&A at the end. And again, email enginfo with any questions after the webinar. So now I'm going to hand it over to our first presenter of the night, Mary Wells, who is our Dean of Engineering.
Well, good evening, everybody. As you heard, my name is Mary Wells, and I have the great privilege of being the Dean of the Faculty of Engineering here at the University of Waterloo. Firstly, I'd like to underline what an amazing achievement gaining admission to Waterloo Engineering is. Each year, we have about 15,000 applications. So the young people that you have supported should be incredibly proud of what they've accomplished in becoming admitted to the University of Waterloo. We are privileged as a university to help guide and nurture students as they move from late-stage teenagers to young adults. The goal of today's session is really to let you know a little bit more detail about Waterloo and highlight some of the resources and services that will be available to first-year students during this time of transition. I'll also be sticking around to answer any questions you may have, so please, ask me any questions you may have about our faculty or anything else you may be interested in. But really, the Faculty of Engineering is renowned for uniquely preparing engineers and architects to tackle difficult problems facing humanity. One of the ways in which we do this is through our signature co-op program. And to be frank, many of the reasons students apply to our program is because of co-op, and that's what we hear from them. When I talk to students about why they choose the University of Waterloo, many say it's because of the unique combination of classroom learning and professional co-op experience. The interwoven nature of programs where you are in class for one term and out in the real world as an engineer or architect in the real world truly makes for a unique offering in terms of kind of interweaving the real world experience with the theoretical experience in the classroom. And I do believe this leads us to graduate better engineers and architects who possess a diversity of experiences. Our students have the opportunity to take on multiple work experiences. And again, that's one of the things that distinguishes us from other programs like U of T's, because for our students, they can take on, the engineering students, kind of 6 distinct and different co-op experiences compared to U of T's kind of one kind of professional practice experience for kind of a longer period of time. So that's just a different experience, which is really, I think, kind of incredibly valuable in terms of what they can do. The University of Waterloo is a top university in Canada for founders and is ranked #1 for the most venture capital backed student entrepreneurs. So if your student that you're supporting is interested in entrepreneurship, I really believe Waterloo is the place to go. We have a brand that is recognized in entrepreneurial spaces, including Silicon Valley and incubators like Y Combinator, etc. I know that for parents and supporters of undergraduates, it's important to know that they're undertaking a course of study that will end up in a job. Eventually, I'm a parent myself with 3 children, so I completely understand the need to feel confidence as a parent that your student will eventually be self-sufficient in a way. And so that's one of our objectives. And I can say that we are one of the best faculties in Canada in terms of graduate employability, with over 94% of our graduates employed within 6 months of graduation. So that's an awesome statistic. I think this speaks to the real world experience we allow our students to get as they pursue their academic program. Now, in terms of extracurriculars, when engineering is probably one of the most demanding programs you can choose to study as a student, generally across the country, not just at Waterloo. So it's a very demanding academic program, and our students have more in-class time than other disciplines, which is true of all the engineering programs in Canada. However, there is still space for rich and rewarding extracurriculars that can help students build community and broaden their horizons. And you get a sense here in the slide of what some of those extracurriculars are. And we hope that across this range of organizations, your students will find a place where they can feel comfortable and are also able to pursue what their passions are. Our engineering society is very, very strong, and I work very closely with them. In fact, I just met with them last night for our kind of termly meeting to find out what they are thinking of doing this year, this term, and what their aspirations are, how we can help support them. So we have a very, very strong relationship between the Faculty of Engineering and our engineering society. They're a wonderful group of students that help to lead many activities and programs for all of our students. And our engineering design teams have access to a tremendous space to allow them to pursue those team activities. We've just had very significant successes with our student design teams. Our formula team placed first in kind of the North American competition. I was very pleased to see that they placed above U of T as well as MIT. Our aerial robotics group also placed first in Canada. And there's been a couple of other successes. So we have very, very strong student teams. Again, as another place for students to learn and be able to kind of connect themselves to their passions in terms of our student teams. And these student teams can range from designing cars and engines on a rocketry team to a concrete toboggan and a concrete canoe. And in fact, last weekend, I was just in Winnipeg for the concrete canoe competition. Waterloo did very well. They placed third in the technical report. And this is a combination of both design and engineering with concrete, but also athleticism with the kind of canoe portions of the paddling for the competition. So here you can get a sense of all the different extracurriculars and student teams we have. We also have a very, very strong women in engineering program that's been going for over 20 years now. So it's an incredibly rich in terms of its history. This Women in Engineering group run many, many different events, including hands-on events like working in a machine shop, and NG Queers supports our LGBTQ plus community, providing a space for socializing and peer-to-peer support. And of course, we have lots and lots of varsity team sports and recreational programs as well. We basically have over 200 clubs, which means there are so many ways to get your undergraduates involved and make connections with the people that make the most sense for them. And so beyond the academic programs, there's so many other rich opportunities for our undergraduate students to get engaged, to get involved in the things that they're very, very passionate about.
All right. So I guess I'll get started. Welcome, everybody. My name is Sarah Meunier. I'm the director of first year engineering here at Waterloo. And really the whole point of the first year engineering office is to support students through that whole transition that is first year. So we're really there to help them navigate all that is first year. I'd like to echo Dean Wells' comments that this is such a great accomplishment, but also with a little side of this is a lot. It's a lot to navigate the university experience, the new people, the new living arrangements, the new everything, the new expectations. So it is a lot, but that's why we're here to navigate it together. So I'd like to start a little bit with what happens next. You got that offer in your hand or in your student's hand. So of course, the first thing I need to tell you is click yes, right? Accept that offer. The deadline is, I think it's Monday. So if you don't accept that offer, unfortunately, it has to be done by that deadline because we're going to start getting our students figured out, put in their classes and all of that. So we really need you to get those offers accepted. If your student is in a dual stream program, so that would be chemical, mechanical, mechatronics, or computer engineering, on that page with their offer, you should see, probably you have to scroll down a little bit to find a link to request a stream. And so the idea is that we do have 4 stream and 8 stream. All of our students alternate between academic terms and co-op terms. As Dean Wells said, there are 6 different opportunities throughout for every program. For co-op terms are 4 months each. And so typically it's back and forth, but there are a couple of places where there's 2 academic terms in a row or 2 co-op terms in a row. And that starts right off from first year. So we have our 2 streams, 4 stream students are in their academic studies from September to December and then start their first co-op term in January. Then 8 stream students are in school from September all the way to April, and then they don't start their first co-op term until May. So they can request a stream. If not, we'll put them in a stream. Not all requests, we're not able to fill all requests. I'll do my best to get everybody in the stream that they want, but it really depends on how many requests they get. Obviously, if we have everybody requesting 4 stream, for example, we do need half those students in 8 stream. So I'm gonna have to put half of them over in the stream that they don't want. On top of that, we need our students to apply for residence. We do have a first year residence guarantee for all of our students, but there's still an application process. And it's really just paperwork, but make sure that you do apply for residence because the spots do fill up quickly. And then for any students who have disabilities that might represent barriers to their academic studies, I recommend right away that they register with accessibility services because in the fall there tends to be a wait and you want to make sure that students have access to accommodations right away, right from the start to get them started off on the right foot. Some other things, so they're kind of like the nuts and bolts, the checklist of things to do. There are other things that are great things to do getting ready for this whole university transition. We do have a program called Waterloo Ready. I'll talk about that in a minute. Starting next week, students should be getting emails about Waterloo Ready and how to participate. So that's a great resource to help them get a good idea of what to expect. If they're looking for things to do over the summer months, in addition to having fun, spending time with their friends and loved ones, I do recommend any resume building activities because we start co-op right away in first year. Students do need to have a resume ready to start applying for jobs. So anything that looks good on a resume is a great thing to do. Also getting ready to move into residence, students do need to book a residence appointment. And move-in is going to happen over Labor Day weekend. So in addition to the actual moving in, which is a big task and tends to be an emotional task, lots of traffic, lots of people, lots of commotion, but also doing things that, might help students prepare to move into residence, getting any of those things that they need and making sure that they're ready for that independence. And then that last piece is orientation. So starting, I think probably late July, early August, students will start receiving some information about orientation to sign up for orientation. So that's another good thing to keep an eye on, especially when there might be some emails coming through. Oh, orientation kind of takes place starting Labor Day weekend and continues for the first couple weeks of the semester. So I do want to talk a little bit about Waterloo Ready. Waterloo Ready has both in-person and online components, and it provides new students with an idea of things that they can do, resources, introduces them to our websites that we use to host our courses, and all kinds of different things to help them prepare for that transition into first year. There is an in-person day that students can attend on July 12th, I think. Like I said, there'll be emails starting next week about Waterloo Ready as well. It's okay if you can't come to the in-person program. I think pretty much everything is recorded, but there's a ton of stuff available online as well. In addition to that, I just want to talk a little bit about co-op. For those of you who are not familiar with co-op, as Dean Wells said, co-op is one of the big things that sets Waterloo apart from some of the other universities. And really, the idea of our co-op system is that students are alternating back and forth between co-op semesters and academic semester. So they're really taking that classroom learning and then using it on the in the workplace right away in order to enhance and make that a full learning experience. It is at first a little bit intimidating because we are sending our first year students off to jobs right from the get-go. Some students starting right away in January. So by this time next year, your student might have their first work term under their belt and be back in school for their second academic term. But it is a really enriching experience, and it gives our students 24, I think if I'm doing my math properly, 24 months of work experience by the time they even graduate. So it's a great experience. So as I mentioned in the beginning, the whole idea of the first year office is to support students. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that we do to support your students as they transition into university life. So in the first year office, we have about 10 full-time staff members and somewhere between 10 and 40 co-op students hired really to support those incoming students. We support in courses, so we're helping out with courses, both our co-op students who are upper year engineering students, as well as our staff members. We run a couple of different options for reduced load programs if students are finding that the workload is a little bit too much. We provide academic advice, so things like how to manage their time, maybe study skills, enrolling in courses. We do take care of all the students' course enrollment as well as scheduling, and we provide some co-op support as well, in addition to what's provided by the co-op office. So lots of things happening in the first year office and lots of great resources for our first year students. One of the programs that we do run or in collaboration with our co-op office is called CFE, so it's Co-op Fundamentals for Engineering. And this is really to help those first year students prepare for co-op in terms of preparing themselves to apply for jobs and to get those jobs, but also, you know, the interviews, how to navigate our co-op system, because we do have our own online portal for to help students find jobs. Although students can find jobs outside of our online portal. We, as part of that program, we also do resume reviews. So we have upper year students taking a look at first year students' resumes to help them figure out how to best place themselves in order to get the jobs that they want. This program is built in collaboration with both the co-op office, employers, as well as the Faculty of Engineering. So lots of collaboration goes into this, and it's really geared at setting these students up for success as they enter their co-op journey. In addition to Co-op Fundamentals for Engineering, the Center for Career Development also supports students with a whole lot of support focus, of course, on first year students, especially those looking for their first work term. But they do support students in all programs, co-op students, as well as non-co-op students, undergrads and grads. They do drop in, they have one-on-one appointments. You can drop in, they run workshops and events. They have online systems for searching for jobs. They do mock interviews. They also support students while they're on co-op with visits, and they can do appointments as well. So a lot of different things to help support our students through their co-op journey. In addition, we have a ton of other resources as well as, of course, academic advisors. So that's us in the first year office, co-op advisors. We have Campus Wellness, which runs a whole slew of wellness programs and provides resources in addition to health services. So those are our doctor's offices and counseling services. So our therapists. We also have the Student Success Office. So they do things like they come into our classrooms to talk to our students about how to be a good student, as well as running sessions like time management or exam prep sessions, self-advocacy. They have all kinds of different programs they run. I briefly mentioned already the accessibility services. So those are for students with disabilities that present barriers to the academic environment. We have teaching assistants for most, if not all of our courses, and they help. Those are mostly graduate students who help out with courses, helps, provide support for students, help them learn the material that they're working on. We have a ton of mentorship programs that go from everything from the program level as well as the university level. So there's all kinds of different mentorship programs that connect upper year students with our more junior students. Of course, there's our athletics and recreation services. So our gyms, our pools, intramural sports, all kinds of things like that to help our students stay active. And then we have the International Experience Office, which helps students navigate either some sort of international experience. It could be exchange, it could be a work abroad program. There are a bunch of other resources. These are just the ones that kind of pop to my mind that students frequently use. So lots and lots of resources available. So with all of that, what can you do to support your student throughout this transition? I will say that it is a big transition. We know that our students they've just rocked high school, right? Like what we do is we take those top students from all of the high schools and we put them together and we really challenge them and push them beyond what they've ever been pushed before. We really want to see what they can do, and we know that they have what it takes to be amazing. They just need that push. So with that means that all of these students, they're embarking on something that's new and not what they've ever seen before. So they may think that they know what to expect because they've been very successful in the past, and they will be successful. They have what it takes. It's just success is going to look a little bit different. Lots and lots of work happening outside of class time. Our students have a really busy schedule, probably somewhere around 30 or more hours of class a week. It's mostly 8:30 to 4:30 every single day. But in addition to that, students are spending at least that much time outside of the classroom, preparing for class before they go, reviewing the content afterwards, practicing. So if your student is hoping to come home every weekend, and relax and hang out with friends from home, it might not be sustainable with the workload that they're going to have to keep up with. They're going to find that assessments are less frequent and typically higher stakes than what they're used to. So a lot more independence, a lot more practice, and a lot more higher stakes assessments. And really that midterm performance, that is the most critical feedback on how well they're going to do. So midterms are mostly happening the week right after, so they'll have a break over Thanksgiving week. And then the week after that is when they'll see most of their midterms. So they really need to spend that Thanksgiving week prepping for the midterms, making sure that they know what to expect. And that's really their point where they really know how they're doing and how well they're going to set up to do in their classes, and really what adjustments they need to make to be successful. There are, like I said, plenty of resources available, but all of these resources, the students need to reach out to get those resources. The resources are not going to fall into their lap. So really that independence, that self-advocacy, that's really important at this level. So as parents, you're going to see lots of changes in their behavior, and their independence. And for the most part, you're gonna have to sit back and watch them grow up and be independent. You're gonna see changes in their communication behavior. So, what you may have set out as expectations, maybe that they're gonna call home every Sunday, may be more frequent or less frequent. They may share more or less than what you're used to, and that's all part of this transition and figuring out where they're at and what they need to do to be successful. One little last piece that's going to be a little bit different for most parents and supporters is that you're no longer going to have access to student performance information or their records. You're going to have to keep that communication open with your student to learn from them directly how things are going and what they need to do. So with that, your role is kind of changing from maybe being a manager of your student's life, to becoming more of a coach. I do have a few recommendations. It's really important that you encourage them to seek help, to reach out to resources. That's something that a lot of our students have trouble doing in the beginning. And it's really helpful if they have somebody else besides just me telling them, there are resources, please reach out to them. You're going to have to watch for signs of concerning behavior. So of course you're going to expect your student to change. They're growing up. They're building a new life as they start university. But what I mean by concerning behaviors is kind of any kind of obsession or anything like that. If you hear anything that's being overdone, so if you hear them skipping a lot of classes, it's normal to skip classes every now and then. But if you hear kind of signs that they're not going to classes at all, or they're focusing way too much on school, they're not sleeping, they're not eating, they're not breathing, those are all concerning. Same socially, if everything sounds like a party versus if they're never out having fun, all of those kind of extremes, I would say are things that you need to kind of watch out for. It's really, really important that you provide a support network for your student that is really judgment free, which I know as a parent myself, that's really, really hard to do. But you want to make sure that your student is coming back and talking to you and reaching out to you for help, not hiding things. And the more judgment they hear, the more they're gonna um, go to somebody else for support instead of you. And then, of course, understanding that mistakes are normal. They're going to mess up. Maybe they've never messed up an assignment before or failed a test before, and that's normal and that's okay. It happens to everybody. The most important thing, of course, is learning from it. And then the last piece that I strongly, strongly recommend is learn what resources are available, because at some point your student is going to come to you with a problem and say, I don't know where to go. I don't know how to get help. And it's really, really great if you know what resources available so you can be that strong, that clear head that says, hey, did you know that there are co-op advisors available, or do you know how to make an appointment with an academic advisor, or did you email the first year office? Those things are really, really helpful to support your student and make sure that their transition is as smooth as possible. So with that, we do have some resources for parents and supporters that you can access. Of course, you can always search stuff on our website. But specifically, we do have a parent and supporter toolbox that you can access through this QR code that really gives a list of the different supports that are available that you can refer your student to if they're needing support with anything, anything at all, whether it's financial or housing or emergency services or academic support, all kinds of places to go. So you can use that as kind of your checklist to look for things. And then we also have a newsletter that you can sign up for that provides information that's timed with what your student may be going through. When it's time to enroll in classes, things like that, there's information that's available for you, just to help support them. So with that, I think Kelsey's gonna come back to navigate the
Yes,
Q&A.
I am. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah and Mary, so much for all of that information. Although it was a lot of information, and we do have a lot of questions coming through here now. So I will stop sharing my screen, and I will ask all my lovely panelists, and everyone to turn their cameras on. So we see everyone back here. All right, so I see them all back now. So everyone can keep posting those questions in the Q&A, but I thought first we would just do some quick introductions of all my lovely ambassadors on the call here. So ambassadors, if you want to say your name, your program, and your thoughts on how parents and supporters can really just help with the transition to university from high school. Jason, do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, hi everybody. Having a good evening. My name is Jason and just finished my first year. Oh, just finished my first year in civil engineering. I'm currently living in Kingston, Ontario, working for my first co-op. In terms of, the way that you as a family and supporters can support students, I think the presenters the presenters before me pretty much touched everything. I think the most important thing I'd like highlight is you know, it's university is different than high school in the sense that your students are, now kind of young adults. They're living on their own. I mean, me as well. Like I started having to figure stuff out on my own, and my parents definitely kind of took a step back. Um, letting me figure things out. They were there for support when I needed. Usually I reached out to them. So I made mistakes, but academically, socially, and that's, part of the learning process, I'd say. So.
Thanks. Sophia, do you want to go next?
Hey everybody, my name is Sophia. I am in systems design engineering and I'm in third year right now. In terms of like parent support, I would say the biggest thing that I experienced in first year was that it was such a big change for me. And talking to my parents on the phone like every few days, I would like express all of my concerns and everything that was changing, and my parents really wanted to like fix the problems. And I think that a big part of growing up in the transition to university is that you kind of have to do it yourself. And it's really nice to have somebody that you can talk to who you've trusted and and are very comfortable with, because when you're in a new setting, especially in the first month of first year, you're meeting a lot of people and you're around a lot of people, but you don't really know them all that well. So it's nice having parents there who know you, who you feel you can talk to, but then also just having them listen and not like try to solve your problems for you, but just have that space where you can feel heard.
Thanks. Helena, do you want to?
Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Helena. I just finished my first year of management engineering, and I'm currently in Waterloo right now for my co-op. And my advice for parents is kind of what Sophie and Jason said, but just give us space. I would always reach out to my parents when I needed support or help, and I'm actually from BC, so my parents were like very crucial in kind of transitioning to come to Ontario. So yeah, space.
Yes, Sky.
Yeah, I'm Sky. I just finished my first year in chemical engineering, which is really exciting. I'm doing my co-op here at the University of Waterloo, still around here. I would say a really big thing for parents and supporters of engineering students is a lot of understanding. It is a very different landscape than high school, and I still think it's like so wild looking back at, when I was a teenager entering university for the first time. Like you're so young and it's such a hard transition in a lot of ways, but um, it's really great to be able to have space to talk about things that like new experiences you're having with your parents. And feeling supported, just being loved and cared for like you've been doing for them their whole lives. A lot of that is just really, really great.
Okay, thanks everyone. All right, there are a lot of questions coming in here. So lots of co-op questions as expected. Of course, both students and parents are worried about finding those co-op jobs, how hard it is to find your co-op job, what's the process for finding your co-op job. So Jason, did you want to kind of talk about co-op, how it was for your first co-op, kind of what the process is and all that jazz?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I've been looking a lot of, as expected, lots of questions on co-op, especially getting that first co-op. It definitely can be scary. I'm in civil engineers are in stream 8, so I'm lucky in the sense that I do have 4 months to settle in before I have to start looking for a job. And I guess just to take a step back, you students will usually start looking for co-op jobs about 4 months before they are expected to begin. So that's the start of the term preceding their co-op term. So for me, I started looking in January. The process was I'd say, pretty smooth, smoother than I expected. The university has an internal job board called Waterloo Works. So on there, there's a few different, I guess, formats or ways you can find a job. The most common being that full cycle, we call it full cycle. I think that's the name, but the full cycle process where, employers will post a whole bunch of jobs that you can apply, kind of mass apply, um, and there's like six, I think 5, 6 rounds of hiring where you'll apply to jobs, hopefully hear back for an interview, do your interview, and then hopefully get ranked. The whole rank match process. But that's actually not how I found my job. So there's a whole bunch of different ways that students can find their jobs. I used Employer Student Direct, which is a list of jobs in Waterloo Works that are pre-approved, but you contact the employer directly. Another way you can find a job is just by going on LinkedIn or Indeed and finding your own job in what's called Arrange Your Own Job. So I think that said, there's a lot of different ways that students can find their job in their first co-op job. There's a lot of support that we're given. I know the presenters previously, I think, touched on resume reviews. So there's lots of resume reviews in first year. You'll be bombarded by the engineering society, by student design teams, older students about, come to their resume review. They'll sometimes also review your cover letter. At the Co-op and Career Center, you can also book appointments to do cover letter reviews, interview practice, all that. Really, like, too much to talk about, I think, in my answer, but there's a lot of support for students to find their first job.
Okay, thanks. Sophia, did you want to talk, since you're in 3A, did you want to just chat about your kind of co-op experiences and how that all worked for you finding the jobs, and then a little bit of everything? You've had a couple terms since then.
Yeah, for sure. So I've actually found all of my co-ops through Waterloo Works. So normally for me, like the process is I was in stream 4, so I started applying for jobs in first year, like in the second week of term. And you'll find as you go through more co-op cycles that the first few weeks of term are normally like the least busy. So that's the best time to make sure you have your cover letter ready, your resume good, and kind of prep for interviews before they even get sent out. That way you're not bombarded when midterms happen and you have interviews and midterms at the same time. And then I will send like I just kind of like mass apply, like Jason said, where you look on Waterloo Works, you'll see a whole bunch of jobs. You can choose, like, make a short list of which jobs you find interesting. You send your resume, cover letter, and then you'll hear back for an interview. That's the process that I followed for every co-op job that I've had so far. I have gone back to a couple co-ops. I'm planning on going back to my last co-op as well. So that's nice. Sometimes you don't have to apply for a job every single term. So I know that might sound a little bit stressful and having to do like 6 rounds of applications and interviews. So there's a lot of opportunity, especially if you go to a bigger company where you can, in your time there, coffee chat with different teams, which is something that I've done in my previous co-ops. And then join a different team so you're learning different skills on co-op that you don't have to go through the whole interview process and you kind of know what to expect, so it's a little bit less stressful.
Do you want to talk about just like housing while you're on your co-op, since you've again had a couple co-ops? Like, what have you done for housing while you've
I've stayed at home for all of my co-ops. I'm pretty lucky in that I'm from Toronto, so in first year I applied to co-ops like anywhere that I could, because honestly, like, I just wanted a job, which I think is a sentiment shared amongst most first years. But I got really lucky in that my first co-op was remote, so I got to stay at home. And then my last 3 co-ops have been some kind of hybrid combination of like 4 days in person, 1 day at home. And I live in Toronto, so it was really nice for me. All of them were in Toronto.
Awesome. Perfect.
Kelsey, do you mind if I add? I just want to add a couple things.
Yeah.
So right now, the youth unemployment rate is very high for Canada and North America generally. So it's relative to what it was like in 2008. So it is more difficult to find a job. But Waterloo has done some very purposeful, specific things to help attract more jobs for our students, considering the situation. One of them is we've just announced a partnership with Team True North, and these new True North companies are the kind of a series of Canadian tech startups. There's 32 of them, I believe, and these are Canadian tech companies that are scaling rapidly and, are predicted to become unicorn status within the next 5 years or so. So we have just announced a partnership with them so that they will be taking some of our co-op students. So we have a lot of opportunities with these kind of startup companies in Canada and things to give our students access to them, which I think is a really awesome opportunity. And I've always been about, like, we have a lot of our students that end up in the States for a variety of reasons in terms of their ambition, in terms of the opportunities, but how do we get our students to want to stay in Canada? So that's one initiative we have started. We've also done a lot of work using AI and stuff to aggregate jobs that we might not typically have our students have access to, or apply into Waterloo Works, so that they are now kind of feeding these job opportunities in. These are things like through the government of Canada and things like this. So maybe not the typical sectors we would think. So we've been very intentional, very aggressive, I would say, in terms of where are all the jobs our students could apply to. So things are difficult, I would say, across Canada. But Waterloo has done some very intentional things to make sure that our students continue to have the best access to meaningful and relevant jobs for their profession for the future.
Thanks, Mary. Okay, a couple more questions here. A lot of questions about being involved in extracurriculars in your first year, first semester. Should people do that? Should they wait? Sky, do you want to talk about your first semester, and if you were involved, how involved were you, and kind of how that went for you?
Yeah, I would say that I really came into Waterloo not thinking that I was going to get super involved in student activities, just because I was scared of not having enough time for like student activities, extracurriculars, and also my studies, because obviously my studies are super important to me. But then I got here and I saw everything. I saw everything that was available, all of the clubs. I think we have like 250 regular, just like university-wide clubs. They're like 25-ish design teams, give or take. Um, and like I was just so interested in so many different things. I just joined a whole bunch of things anyway. I will say I have like really solid time management skills, which is important for an engineering student generally, but also definitely to do extracurriculars. But yeah, I think the first thing that I knew I wanted to join was tea club. I love tea. I drink tea so much. I have my cup of tea here now. Um, and yeah, so I was thinking, okay, great. Like this is a place I can go. I can drink tea. They have like 5 different flavors, new flavors every week. I can play board games. And it's like everyone, not just engineering students. And that was really great. I love the engineering student body. I love my peers, but it is also really fun talking to people outside of engineering, kind of getting their perspective. Talking to people in physics was really fun. The arts as well. They're always really fun to talk to. Um, Design teams, I joined a design team. I made sure it was like a lower commitment role. I just did local outreach stuff because I'm from the Waterloo region, so I know a lot of high schools around here. I know a lot of people from those high schools and like the administrative departments. So that was also, again, really fun for me, not super labor intensive. Um, I also joined the engineering ambassadors. That was a really fun one for me. It wasn't really a hard call, just because I knew that also like I could kind of pick my level of commitment with it. You know, if I could do a shadow day with a high school student, I would take that shift. If I could do a tour, if it fit into my schedule, I could do that as well. And it wasn't a big deal. I didn't have to move things around for it. And there's a lot of things like that, you know, like for our sports teams as well, there's a lot of different levels of intensity. Like for example, like archery club, I'm looking at joining this term. You can do a beginner level, like an intermediate level, and then also like the super competitive level where you go to like tournaments and everything. And it's very similar for a lot of the sports teams as well. Um, and yeah, again, like I came in thinking that I wasn't going to do all these things. I found that coming to Waterloo made it really hard for me to not join things and get involved. There's just so many things to do. I think it's just I think that coming here has opened me up to a lot of opportunities for things to try. Like wouldn't probably have the resources to try a lot of the sports on my own, if I weren't here. And yeah, like I know there are a lot of people who join a lot of extracurriculars. And again, they have great time management skills. But it's really fun just to broaden your horizons.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, there's a couple questions here. There's a question about management co-op opportunities. Helena, do you want to touch on possible management co-op opportunities? And also there's some questions just about your experience being a female in engineering. Do you just want to talk about that a little bit, Helena?
Yeah. What was the last question? Being a
Just
woman?
being a female in engineering, kind of how your experience has been.
Yeah, I really like management engineering. Personally, it's been a great experience. I couldn't imagine being in a different program. I was originally kind of considering mechanical engineering, which is like completely different than management. Um, in terms of co-op, specifically for management engineering, there's a lot of different kind of positions that we can take. We're a very like general co-op program. So we can do stuff like operations, software, even some business accounting roles as well. Being a woman in engineering, it specifically in my program, we have about like a 50-50 split. Um, I also like supporting other women in engineering, so I like volunteer on the weekends with the Women in Engineering Club. Um, yeah, there's not much to say.
Awesome. No, that's okay.
Yeah.
Kelsey, I
okay,
might
great.
just add, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in terms of women in engineering, Waterloo is a leader amongst in Canada. Like the average of women in engineering generally across the board is about 21, 22%, whereas Waterloo's typically at 35 to 38%. So partially it's the programs we offer, like biomedical engineering, architectural engineering, which tend to have very high levels of women, but generally we punch above the average for all of the programs we offer. So part of that has to do with the research intensive nature of our university, which women tend to be very attracted to in terms of research opportunities. But I think it's also, our amazing students and our very strong focus on women in engineering and opportunities for them in our programs. So.
Thank you. There's a couple questions, Sarah, about mental health supports, medical, dental health supports on campus, also an international co-op, if they can do that in their first terms or not. Do you want to briefly mention again brief supports of those mental health supports or medical, dental that we have at the university? Oh, sorry, Sarah. I don't know. I muted there.
Sorry, Kelsey, did you want me to answer that?
Sorry, yes, sorry.
Okay. Sorry, I was reading questions and trying to answer some of the questions typed. So hopefully I heard enough of the question to answer. There's a whole ton of resources available. We do have doctors available on campus, as well as counselors. Those are the two biggest resources that we have in terms of medical. Our undergrad students do have health benefits available to them as well. And they can usually access health insurance and benefits through their parents as well, as long as they're still a student. So there are lots of resources available for that. I heard mental health, so we do have counselors even within the first year office. We have 4 dedicated counselors for engineering students. 4. But students can access any of our counselors. There's a whole counseling team, but we do have 4 that are dedicated just for engineering students. Kelsey, what else do I miss?
People are asking about stream request when they find out what stream they're in.
Oh, so what's gonna happen? So stream requests have to be submitted by June 2nd. So we'll take all of those next week and go through and place students in streams. So I'm gonna say mid-June, we should have everybody put in streams, and there's a form you can go into online to look up what stream you're in, which is linked from the same page where you go and request a stream. So we'll have that done. It won't be done next week, but the week after we'll have all the streaming done. And I do recommend that if you are requesting a stream, do tell us why you're requesting that stream. That's really important. So please do that. Anything else, Kelsey, that I missed?
No, I think you're good, but do you want to give just with the time? It is almost 9 o'clock. So we're just going to do a little round table of any final thoughts that everyone has. So Sarah, do you have any final thoughts for everyone?
Final thoughts. I guess I really, really want to focus on that. There are a ton of resources. Please help your student learn to reach out for help. A lot of students come in thinking that they have to do it alone, and that's just not the way it works. We have lots of people to help, lots of people to support, and we want students to be working together and connecting with people, and not trying to just truck it along.
Hey, Mary, do you have some final thoughts to leave our parents and supporters?
Yeah, no, I think, I'm a parent. I have 3 children that are in university, so I know how you're feeling. And it's a stressful time because you're, worried about how they will be successful. But the best thing you can do is just support them. Don't ask them how their midterms are going or anything like that. Like when they come to university, especially in engineering, 60 is the new 90. So they will feel very stressed about that. It doesn't help if you add to their stress by asking them what their marks are and then, inadvertently judging them on their marks. And this is something Sarah Meunier said last year at our Waterloo Ready event, which I've never forgotten. So thank you, Sarah. But many of our students come in feeling like an imposter, like somehow they got into Waterloo Engineering, but they don't belong, but we chose you. So just because they wanted to come to us, we've also chosen them. So because we've chosen them, we believe that they can do it. And so, it's important to remind them of that we believe they will be successful there. And it's an incredibly competitive process. We have 16,000 applicants. We only choose 1,800. And we are very, very careful in those students we select. And we've chosen them very carefully. And so we believe and we see something in them that we believe they will be successful. So it's important that they believe in themselves, but that you also believe in them. And it may be that they don't get the kinds of marks they got before, but they're getting through it. And so just support them, believe in them, and we believe in them. So, I hope you choose Waterloo. It's an awesome university, and there's so many opportunities for our students.
Helena, do you have any last thoughts?
Don't have much. What Mary said was wonderful. I kind of mentioned this at the beginning, but just like letting your child breathe here. Water engineering is a very unique experience. I remember like not doing so good on like I think it was a physics midterm, and like calling my mom, and then she was like, "What happened?" And I was like, "I honestly don't know." And yeah, I just remember that like significantly, and then kind of like coming back and like trying to figure it on my own, like what do I do next, and like support, like getting support from the school, not necessarily just my parents. Another thing about Waterloo is there's a lot of support, a lot of resources to go to. Yeah, so just have trust that like everything that you need is at the school, and then your parents are also there to also have lots of support. But the school is wonderful.
Awesome. Jason, last final thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, I think the whole theme, right, that we've been talking about is kind of, giving some space. It's very true. I mean, first year's, right, a big time like of change for many of us. We're learning how to juggle, making new friends in a new place, keeping track of our grades and our schoolwork on our own, living by ourselves, maybe even cooking for ourselves. So, it's kind of very jarring for many, like at least for many of my friends and myself. I think the biggest thing like that parents can do is, just the one thing that like you can push your students to kind of like go get out there, and make friends, be like I'd say not, Waterloo students tend to, I'd say, want to focus a lot on school, like 100% on school, all day, every day. But making sure, your kids are also going out, having some fun, meeting new people, because university is not all just an academic endeavor. It's also a social endeavor. It's also a professional endeavor, which involves a lot of, going out, making connections, speaking with other people, making friends, and as we say, touch grass. So I think that's my big takeaway.
Awesome. All right. Sophia, then Scott.
I would echo what Jason just said. And then also, like, I feel like I can say as a third year that it gets easier. Um, I think like my whole class would say that 1A was our hardest term, not because of like the content itself, because obviously, like, as you progress, the content will become more advanced, but just the transition to learning in a lecture tutorial format as opposed to a high school format, having midterms and then getting those grades back. There's a lot of highs and lows that come along with first year. So just reminding students that it gets better. It's like the hardest part is just getting through the first semester. And once you do that, it's like you can conquer anything. And I would also say just to enjoy the summer. Like it's the last 2 months you'll get off consecutively for 5 years. And like I really want 2 months off consecutively. In like 2 years I'll get that. So I just say like enjoy it. The best thing that you can do for yourself is to come into 1A like relaxed and recharged.
All right, Scott, the last one.
Yeah, I think I'm really lucky. Both of my parents did engineering at Waterloo, so they really know what it's like. But just generally, even if you haven't done engineering or university in general, some of my most calming moments have been me on the phone with my dad saying, like Mary said, Dean Mary Wells said, like, I don't even know how I got in here. Like, I don't even know if I belong here. I feel like everyone is so smart. I don't know what to do. And he's like, you know what, Sky? Everyone feels that way. Every single person feels that way. I felt that way when I was in Waterloo. And my dad is one of the smartest people I know. And just being able to talk to him, like, I had this crazy midterm, like it was wild. The questions, like I don't even know how I did. And he's like, Sky, if you feel that way, everyone else feels that way too. And just being able to be told rational thoughts from another person. It's very calming. It's very reassuring. And he's right. If I'm frustrated or anxious or something about how I'm doing or, the quality of my work output, anything like that, he's like, Sky, that's engineering at Waterloo. He said that sentence to me maybe 1,000 times. He's like, everyone feels that way. It's hard, but you belong there. You're gonna get through it. And all your friends are going to get through it too. And again, like it sounds silly maybe, but just hearing those words, it really, really has helped me get through, some of the hardest moments in midterms and final exams. And yeah, just remembering those words, I think was the most helpful thing that my parent could do for me.
Awesome. All right. Well, that is end of time here. So I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, Mary and Sarah, and all my lovely engineering ambassadors on here. Congratulations to all of our students that have received offers from us. I just want to reiterate again, if you do have any questions or anything, you can reach out to us at enginfo@uwaterloo.ca, and we'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Don't forget to accept that offer before June 2nd. Also want to note you can come to campus and see us for a tour, or you can look up Ask a Warrior Engineering kind of Unibuddy, our new platform, which is a way you can connect with current students and ask them any questions that you do have. So just a couple reminders to keep out there. But with that, I will just say thank you again, everyone, all my volunteers and attendees. And I hope everybody has a great night, and hopefully I will see students here in the fall. So have a good night, everyone.